ICN families, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, inshallah, tonight we'll be going over Surah Al-A'raf, Surah number 7, verse 194 until 198. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذين تدعون من دون الله Indeed, those that you call upon other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala عباد أمثالكم They are slaves just like you. فَدْعُوهُمْ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ So call upon them and let them respond to you if you are indeed truthful. You should be truthful. أَلَهُمْ أَرْجُلٌ يَمْشُونَ بِهَا Do they have feet by which they walk? أَمْ لَهُمْ أَيْدِي يَبْطِشُونَ بِهَا Or do they have hands through which they can strike? أَمْ لَهُمْ أَعْيُنٌ يُبْصِرُونَ بِهَا Or do they have eyes through which they can see? أَمْ لَهُمْ آذَانٌ يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا Or do they have ears through which they can hear? قُلِ ادْعُوا شُرَكَاءَكُمْ ثُمَّ كِيدُونِ فَلَا تُنظِرُونَ Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, call your partners and then conspire against me and give me no mercy, give me no respite. إِنَّ وَلِيَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِي نَزَّلَ الْكِتَابِ Indeed, my protector is Allah who has revealed this book, who has sent down this book. وَهُوَ يَتَوَلَّى الصَّالِحِينَ And He is the ally of the believers. وَالَّذِينَ تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ لَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ نَصْرَكُمْ وَلَا أَنفُسَهُمْ يَنصُرُونَ And those that you call upon besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, besides Him, are unable to help you, nor can even they help themselves. وَإِن تَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَى الْهُدَى لَا يَسْمَعُوا And if you invite them to guidance, they do not listen. وَتَرَاهُمْ يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَيْكَ وَهُمْ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ And you will see them looking at you while they don't really see. So in this verse, going back to the first one, verse 194, here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first is making a very clear statement to them. Alright, this is now addressing the mushrikeen of Makkah, or people who are just committing shirk, period. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ That those things that you are worshipping Allah other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember one thing, عِبَادٌ أَمْثَالُكُمْ They, just like you, they are nothing more than slaves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah reminding them of what they are actually, whatever they think is all powerful, almighty, is nothing more than a slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them, call them, tell them to help you, if they and make sure they respond to you. Then the next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tries to appeal to their intellect. And He says, أَلَهُمْ أَرْجُلٌ يَمْشُونَ بِهَا Remember, this is a thing that you are worshipping, right? A physical thing that you can see, that you are talking, you're addressing. And at the very least, if it's something that you can at least see, at the very least, it should have the same functions as you. It shouldn't be any less than you. So, أَلَهُمْ أَرْجُلٌ You walk. So, do these things that you're worshipping, do they walk? Does it have a leg that it walks with? Maybe one leg or two legs or three or four, whatever it needs. Does it have legs that it can walk on, period? أَمْ لَهُمْ أَيْدِي يَمْتِشُونَ بِهَا What if, you say something that is wrong, or you do something that is wrong? That this deity that you're worshipping, does it have the ability to come and slap you in the head? Right? Or punish you or hurt you in some way, shape, or form with its hand? Can it even outstretch its hands, if it has any? أَمْ لَهُمْ آذَانٌ يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا Now you sit there and you're crying and you're talking and you're praying and you're worshiping to this thing. Can it even hear you? Does it have ears to which it can hear, it can listen to you? أَمْ لَهُمْ أَمْ لَهُمْ آذَانٌ يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا Right? Can it see you? Right? أَمْ لَهُمْ أَعْيُنٌ يُبْصِرُونَ بِهَا Can it look at it? Can it see you? Right? You're walking back and forth. It can't see you. It can't hear you. It can't do any of these things. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now telling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and He's telling him to issue a challenge. قُلِ ادْعُوا شُرَكَاءَكُمْ ثُمَّ كِيدُونِ فَلَا تُنظِرُونَ Go to those things, the deities that you're worshipping, and call them. Call them here and tell them to come and punish you. Right? Tell them to come against you and harm you and show absolutely no mercy. Do that. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now telling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the mushrikeen now, they are getting more brazen and they're getting more audacious in their attacks and their enmity against Islam. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is now being asked to match that. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also now giving us some insight that for a believer, this is the strength that you're looking for, the strength in a person's character, right? This is what it should be. That a believer, when you're aiming, we all have ambitions, we all have dreams, but we also have examples of what those dreams look like, right? Maybe if you want to be rich, there's a certain person that you have in mind that, you know what, I want to be rich like this person or like these people, right? So everybody has some sort of example in their mind that they want to emulate and follow. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us one. In terms of our character, how strong and how should we fashion our character as far as the Muslim is concerned. So here the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's asked to be very confident. You know, his demeanor with these people, with the mushrikeen in Mecca, he should have a lot of tenacity, a lot of and fearlessness, and this is what they saw. Even though the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he himself was a very humble person. He was very down to earth. He was very calm. He was a very mellow person. He wasn't somebody who was always like high energy and somebody who was just very loud and opinionated. He was very calm, very humble, and he was somebody who was very down to earth. But when the Prophet ﷺ spoke, he spoke with such fearlessness, with such tenacity and such strength. I mean, this type of confidence, this is what really led to people just falling head over heels towards Islam. Right? Why people came towards Islam. But what you have to remember, this confidence that the Prophet ﷺ had, it's not an empty confidence. It's not a shallow confidence. It's not something that has no backing. There was a substance to it. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, he knew that when he spoke, his reasoning and his logic was airtight. Nobody could bring an argument that could come close to the Prophet ﷺ's arguments. And the strength that the Prophet ﷺ had, his moral and intellectual strength, was absolutely rock solid. So the Prophet ﷺ, he had something to back it up. His knowledge, his confidence were all there, but without all the arrogance, of course. And the Prophet ﷺ, and this is how he's asked to address the mushrikeen of Makkah. Now, we live in a day and age, and we live in a time where there's so much Islamophobia, and there's so much fear mongering against Islam and Muslims. Our youth are having, many of them are having an identity crisis. They don't know where their religion fits, and when you look at it, that's what this verse is trying to tell us, that the root cause of all these things is that we lack this confidence, we lack this fearlessness, this tenacity, this conviction that our faith is the true faith. But this doesn't come just like that. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't just come by a person sitting down and watching TV and playing and not it comes through acquiring knowledge. You have to acquire the essential knowledge, the right knowledge. That's how you will have that strength in your intellect and logic. Even though the Prophet ﷺ himself was a very smart and intellectual person, but this is not what gave his arguments weight. It was the truth behind it, and the knowledge and the wisdom that was there behind the Prophet ﷺ. And if we were to kind of narrow down some of the issues amongst our ummah and amongst our youth, just take our youth for example. Our youth, they're having a crisis of identities. Are middle-aged and Muslims who are now in their 40s and their 50s, 30s, 40s and their 50s, they're just chasing after their desires and their careers. And what happens is we've neglected the most basic thing. Right? Take an example for our youth. We all want them to be good Muslims, but in order to be good Muslims, you have to know what your religion is. Why do our youth have this crisis or this confusion? All because they don't know where their faith. It's not that they don't believe in it; they believe in Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Many of them do, and then those that don't believe or they are confused or not sure, is simply all comes down to a lack of knowledge. They don't know enough. When you know your faith, you know your deen, you know where it stands and where it fits inside in your life. When you don't know it, of course you won't have enough to stand on your own feet, right? Intellectually and logically speaking. So when you don't have enough knowledge, you won't be able to back up your claim. And this is why those youth who are leaving the fold of Islam, it all comes down to this. And those who believe, who have firm belief, but just not confident, it's simply because they have not understood their religion. Now, when I say knowledge, I don't mean knowledge of of fiqh, right? We're not talking about fiqh here, right? How to pray, how to wudu. These are essential things we teach our children from a young age. But this is just to keep up with their ibadah. So they're able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But ilm and knowledge goes more than just fiqh. You need to understand, if you believe in Allah, why do you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We believe in the truthfulness of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why do we believe in this truthfulness? These are the essential questions that we need to answer, that our youth are asking us, and they constantly ask us, but we never really give them a good answer, or we don't answer them at all. So if they have this knowledge, they will have this confidence, right? And with that confidence, this is where this conviction and this strength in character and this confidence, this is where it comes from when you have the right knowledge. Same thing with those, brothers and sisters who are in their middle age, and they just simply they don't, while they're chasing after their careers and their desires and the worldly life, because they haven't really taken out time to understand their faith and their deen. And if they really understand it, they will have the same strength in character, just like the Prophet ﷺ had, or at least the strength in their faith and their iman. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet ﷺ to have this strength in his character, to have this strength in addressing the mushrikeen of Makkah, because a Muslim, this is how Muslims should be conducting themselves. This is how we should be presenting ourselves. That we have all of this, but it all comes down to that a person must have the integrity, right? Because integrity is what gives that person a strength in that character. When you have integrity, you know that you have done everything in your power to acquire and to acquire the knowledge and have the tools that you need to have in order to go on with this journey. So this is what the Prophet ﷺ had, and this is why Islam spread like wildfire. When the Prophet ﷺ preached Islam, why people listened. When the Sahaba radiallahu ajma'in, when they went outside of Arabia, why Islam spread so much? Because the people saw this in the character of the Sahaba. They saw how the strength of their faith and the conviction of their iman. And they saw this confidence, and these people knew that they are on the ultimate truth. And this is not just a false sense of confidence, but one that is really backed up. Because when you spoke to the Sahaba, they would be able to tell you from every perspective, whether it was intellectually, whether it was historically, every way, shape, and form. The Sahaba had the strength in their iman because of the knowledge they had. And this is how and why, when they were able to face their enemies and face their opposition, they were able to do it in such a powerful and a strong way. But also in the next verse, inna waliyullahu alladhi nazala alkitab wa huwa yatawalla as-salihin, that indeed the Prophet ﷺ knew, and Allah is telling him that verily Allah is the one who's protecting you. If you are a believer, and remember this last portion of this verse 196, this is the most powerful part of the entire series. That as a believer, if you are a mu'min, you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is on your side. Allah is your helper. He is the one who's going to be in your corner when no one else is there, and you don't need anybody else. So a believer, even in this world, a believer, when he is faced against his enemies, Allah will help him against his enemies. And if by some chance or way, shape, or form he does lose, this loss even is a victory. Right? Because for a believer, how do we judge success? What is success according to a believer? It is attaining the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if Allah's pleasure is in us losing momentarily at that point in time, then we have won no matter what. Whatever the whole world can be against us, they can say that we are the losers, but if Allah is pleased with us, then we are indeed successful, and we are indeed victorious. And that's what this verse is trying to teach us. These verses are trying to teach us. They're trying to tell us that we must have this integrity. And when we have this integrity, this confidence will follow. This fearlessness will follow. But at the same time, you have to remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. And whether we win or lose in this world or hereafter, we'll always be the winners as long as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on our side. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.